Alright guys, so today we are going to be doing cha-ching number 103. Since we are getting closer to Christmas, I am going to try to do at least one Christmas related cha-ching video. I think at Halloween I did 2, which might have been a little excessive. I think last year I actually did 3 Christmas cha-chings, which I probably could do 3, but I think I'm just going to limit it to 1 this year. But this one is number 103, and there are some Christmas stuff that will be in this cha-ching. So the first thing that we have was a vintage Sony Walkman cassette player. This sold for $42, and more than likely that came from a yard sale. Next item we have is a Tommy Bahama. This was a blanket. It was a down alternative blanket, a king size. That sold for $89.99, and I did pick that up at an auction. It was brand new, and I'd say I paid maybe $20 or less for it. Next, if you hear any like grunting sounds, it's my dog. She is down at my side, nibbling on my fingers. She wants to play, and Eric's downstairs packing up boxes. So yeah, anyway, next item we have, this was for a vintage from 1960 coin bank. It had cats on it. It was like circus related. It was by a company called Lego, L-E-G-O. That sold for $29.99. There was a little bit of an issue with it, but just a really cool piece. I had never seen anything like it before. And that, oh, I'm not sure if I picked that up at a yard sale or if it came from an auction. Next item I sold was a Victoria's Secret Rapture perfume. This sold for $19.99. I actually just sold another Victoria's Secret Rapture perfume literally like yesterday. So it's definitely one to pick up if you see it. I also sold a light stim light therapy contraption. This was like a handheld device that would just radiate like a light, and it was supposed to help with muscle pains and stuff like that. I never used it or anything like that. It came from an auction, and that sold for $79.99, so they are definitely pricey little machines. I'd say we pay maybe $20 for that. I also sold a vintage NASCAR shirt that sold for $17.99. That more than likely came from a yard sale, so $1 or less for that one. Next was a Lush Easy Peeler body scrub. This sold for $16.99, and this was just something within my collection. Came in one of my Lush kitchen subscription boxes, and I just really don't use their naked version body scrubs. I sold a set of 2 mesh food plate covers. So these would be things you put over food, like if you're having a picnic or something along those lines where you don't want bugs getting to your food. Eric actually picked these up at kind of like a fill-a-bag church sale, and those sold for $19.99. Let's see, next we have a trim shaper bathing suit. This sold for $19.99, and that came from a fill-a-bag rummage sale. I also sold an Avon perfume in the scent Tricelle. That sold for $17.99. That did come from an auction. Next was a Josie Marin Argan Oil body butter in the scent Vanilla Bean. That sold for $25.99. That came from a beauty tray I won at the auction. And I will mention, since I am talking a little bit about beauty trays, I win at the auction. So one of the last auctions I had gone to, well, actually Eric had gone to, the man who runs it, like, I kind of am known around the auction world that, you know, I'm interested in like perfumes and beauty stuff and that type of thing. And he told Eric that there was an auction coming up and he had a ton of beauty stuff. So he told Eric to tell me about it. So the following week when he had it, I went and I actually did record, so I will have a video of that, and I did win some trays, so you can see more or less like the beauty trays that I win at the auction. Let's see, we are at a vintage, this was from 1958, a snack sack pink lunchbox. So this was a vintage lunchbox that sold for $49.99. That did come from an auction. I had won two lunch boxes. It was like a lot of 2 lunch boxes, and the other one sold a long time ago. But yeah, this one was the better one out of the 2, and that finally did sell. I sold a 1986 Fluffy Dog plush stuffed animal. This sold for $16.99. It actually came from the same Fill-A-Bag church sale where we picked up those picnic mesh covers. Also sold a cloisonne ashtray for $23.99. That came from a yard sale. The next item was a set of 3. They call these pieces elfinware. Those sold for $27.99. Those came from an auction. I had won like a big tray full of these little elfinware pieces. They're very slow sellers. I think I still have some listed. I think I have a lot listed. And I still have a pretty large flat of them that I haven't listed yet because they're not very good sellers. So that might have been a bad buy on my part, but those 3 sold. Next, we have a really nice enamel cast iron Dutch oven. This was by a company called Shell.Belle. Coquette. I don't even know how to pronounce that. That sold for $188.49. That came from a yard sale, and I'm pretty sure we paid $10 for it. It was just kind of outrageous. I don't know why it was so cheap. Maybe like the lady got it as a gift and didn't realize like how expensive it was. We didn't know either until we looked it up. But yeah, that one was a good one, and I had never heard of that brand before. All right, the next 4 items went to a subscriber named Tammy. So the first thing she purchased was this beautiful hanging swag light lamp. This had a butterfly terrarium inside. I had never seen anything like this before. That sold for $67. I did find that at a yard sale, and I think I paid $5 for it. At the same yard sale, this yard sale had a lot of nice stuff. At the same yard sale, I purchased this sugar bowl by a company called Freddie Oro. Again, I had never seen anything like it before, just very unique and interesting. That sold for $29.99, and I think I paid $4 for that, or $5. And also from the same yard sale, it was an Empoli, I'm pretty sure this was from the same yard sale, Twisted Stem Green Compote. That sold for $49.99, and I feel like I might have paid maybe $8 for that. I can't remember off the top of my head. And then she also purchased a West Virginia glass juice pitcher with matching glasses. This had a strawberry print all over. Those sold for $69.99, and those did come from an auction. Next item came from a yard sale. This was for a Tefal stock pot that sold for $39.99, and I think I paid $5 for that at a yard sale. I also sold a Staffordshire Spaniel King Charles dogs. These were small. They weren't like large ones. I do have a set of large ones that I haven't listed. I had for a long time. They're in my bookcase. So they're serving a purpose, but I probably should list them. But these ones were on a much smaller scale. I had never seen any this tiny before. Those sold for $32, and I'm pretty sure those came from a yard sale as well. I sold another item to a subscriber named Nicole. This was for a Jellycat giraffe plush. That sold for $12.99, and again, that also came from a yard sale. Next we have a bottle of Juve Tress hair therapy that sold for $59.99. That came from a beauty tray. I had one at the auction. This one was a good one. Here's like kind of a bolo maybe some people don't really know about. This was for a set of 4 Jell-O Jigglers egg molds. Those sold for $32. I got those at a yard sale. I think I paid 50 cents for all of them, or maybe $1 for all of them. People buy these. Like, these are pretty consistent sellers. Like, when I find them, they tend to sell. Like, they don't sit for a super long time. And not that long ago, I had found some kind of off-brand ones that weren't Jell-O, but still made egg-shaped Jell-O jigglers, and even those sold as well. So, I mean, obviously I feel like the Jell-O ones are the better ones to find, but if you find any egg-shaped Jell-O molds, I do think you should take a chance on them if they are cheap enough. I sold a Vera Bradley Harry Potter crossbody purse for $29.99. This came from a yard sale, and I think I paid $3 for that. I sold a dairy milk bottle. This was for Lance's Dairy. That sold for $24.99. That came on a tray of some other stuff I won at an auction. I don't know a whole lot about dairy bottles, but I've been kind of learning. I've been researching them a little bit myself because I sold one not that long ago for a pretty decent price, and then the other day Eric was at the auction and there was another one that I found that last had sold for $100 some. So there's definitely money to be made in dairy bottles. So I'm definitely, like, anytime I see one, I look it up just in case. They're not all created equal. They're not all worth money, but on the rare occasion, you may come across one that definitely has some value to it. Next we have a massager. This was for a vintage massager by Vibra-King. This sold for $225.99. This had its original box and all of its attachments. Got this at a yard sale, and it was kind of like a bundled deal. So I'd say I paid maybe $2 at the most for this massager. And I went to a fill-a-bag rummage sale. I think it was either my last fill-a-bag rummage sale or the one before that footage video. You saw me pick one of these up. It didn't have any of its attachments. It was just the unit itself, but I knew right away that I had sold this one with attachments that sold really well, so I knew I could probably get a little something for just the unit. Definitely some vintage massagers can sell well. Again, not all created equal, but if you come across one, comp it. Next we have a Victoria's Secret body spray in the scent Exotic Kiss that sold for $29.99, and that came from a yard sale. I sold a mini bottle of Calvin Klein Sheer Obsession for $39.99, and this was just a teensy little miniature bottle. There are people out there who collect the miniature versions of perfumes, so if you see any kind of vintage perfume out and it's just like a tiny little bottle, don't overlook it. Don't think like, oh, it's just a little teensy little bottle, like it's not going to be worth anything, because some of them can sell sometimes just as good as like a full-size bottle because people are collecting the small versions. I sold a pair of Bratz doll shoes. This was just a pair of shoes for $4.99. Those came in kind of like a random bag of Bratz stuff that I had purchased at a yard sale. Sold a vintage bank bag. This was for People's Bank. That sold for $12.99. Pretty sure that came from a yard sale, and I think I paid 10 cents for it. I also sold a vintage Mighty Ducks sweatshirt for $39.99. Again, yard sale or fill-a-bag rummage sale. I feel like that was a yard sale though. Let's see, we got a Lisa Frank. This was vintage Lisa Frank stationery lot. This one had Cleopatra all over. That sold for $31. I picked that up at a yard sale. I think I paid 25 cents or 50 cents for it. Next item to go to a subscriber named Amber. This was for a vintage Metallica iron-on patches. This was for a lot of 2. Those sold for $9.99, and those came from a yard sale where I had purchased a couple of vintage like Metallica postcards and pins and stuff like that. I sold a Nintendo DS game lot. This was just for the cartridges, just a whole bunch of DS game cartridges. Those sold for $20.84. So it was just a lot of those. Those came from a yard sale where we had purchased a Nintendo DS, and then she threw in like all of the games that she had there for free. Next we have a Cat's Meow wooden piece. This was for Hooper's Restaurant, which is in Ocean City, Maryland. That sold for $36. Some Cat's Meow, again, not all created equal, but some can sell well depending on the place and the location and that type of thing. So that one was a good one, and I found that at a yard sale. I think I paid less than $1 for it. I also sold a Lush Supertramp shower gel. Again, this came from one of my Lush kitchen subscription boxes. I just was not a fan of that fragrance. That sold for $39.99. I sold a vintage lip service skirt. This sold for $99.99. I got this at a yard sale. And again, it was like a bundled type deal. I had filled a box full of clothes. I think I paid $20 for the box. So that one was a good sale. I sold a Laura Geller blush with a makeup brush. That sold for $29.99. And again, that was from a beauty tray I had won at the auction. I had sold a hand-carved kind of like tribal wooden figure. That sold for $49.99. I got that at an auction. I'm pretty sure I only paid $1 for it. When I looked it up, I saw that they were selling pretty well. I had found like the exact one when I was doing my research. Next we have this was like a garden decoration of a duck dressed like a teacher. That sold for $16.99. That did come from a yard sale. I'm pretty sure maybe we paid $2 or $3 for it at the Best Buy. Next item went to a subscriber named Sandra. This was for a deck of tarot cards called The Answer is Simple. Those sold for $89.99. And I can't remember where these came from, whether or not it was an auction or a yard sale. Next I have an Avon Chili Sam lamp. So this was a snowman like light up lamp that did come from Avon originally. That's sold for $39.99, and I got that at a yard sale. I'm pretty sure I paid $3 or $4 for it. I sold an Orioles stadium pin for $3.99. This came from a tray of Orioles pins that Eric had won at an auction. I also sold a Gillette Mach 3 razor. This was from 1998. That sold for $18.99, and that came from a yard sale. I think I paid $1 or 50 cents for it. I also sold another Avon perfume. This one was called Odyssey. That sold for $9.99, and again came from an auction. I sold a vintage Santa Relco planter for $149.99. I am definitely starting to personally myself collect vintage Christmas stuff for my own personal collection. Eric and I have been, and there are pieces that I have sold in the past, like this one here, where now when I look back I'm like, oh, I should have kept that. Even though like I got so much for it, it's still one of those things that like I feel like vintage Christmas stuff is just getting more and more expensive as the years go on because people are collecting it, so you're not seeing it out and about as much, or, you know, pieces are breaking or getting ruined, and then, you know, people are like probably throwing them away, so that's less stuff, like even more less stuff out in the wild. So yeah, it's definitely something like when I'm finding it now, it's becoming increasingly harder, one, for me to sell it. So yeah, I've been finding a lot of good pieces while at auctions and stuff like that. Like, I just won a little Holt Howard Santa, like driving a car. He was a candlestick holder, and there was only one at the auction, and there's supposed to be two of them, and they're ever so slightly different because they're in a set of two. So one is like looking slightly a different way than the other one, like its head is turned, because they're like a matching little like candlestick pair. So anyway, I won that one at the auction, and I was like, oh, well, I'll just put it in our curio with our Christmas decorations, and then maybe one day I'll find his pair. I'm not even kidding you. The next day we went to the antique store and I found his pair, like right away. So that was amazing. And of course now I'm like, I'm not going to sell them. But that was just like so crazy how that happened. And I just went off on a little bit of a tangent about vintage Christmas, but I love vintage Christmas. So on to the next. The next two items did go to a subscriber named Lisa. First thing she purchased was a Mickey Mouse mug of Mickey wearing a top hat that sold for $12.99. That did come from a yard sale. And she also purchased a Coach checkbook style wallet that sold for $39.99. And again, that probably came from a yard sale. And the last thing that I have for this cha-ching also went to a subscriber named Dina. This was for a Yankee Candle tea light holder with a moose on it that sold for $12.99, and that also came from a yard sale. So that is everything for this most recent cha-ching. As far as eBay goes, we're getting closer and closer and closer to Christmas. I feel like yesterday my sales, no, the day before yesterday, my sales kind of like, I feel like stopped almost. Like I felt like I wasn't getting many sales. I'm like, what is going on? Because we're getting, you know, so much closer to Christmas. I figured sales would be fairly consistent. And then yesterday they started popping off again. So I don't know like what was going on there, if like maybe eBay was having some sort of difficulties or whatnot. The one day I was having issues when I was listing, and I was trying to figure out if anyone else was having issues, but like when I post on the like eBay related Facebook groups, I feel like I don't get much help when I post on those groups. I feel like, and I hate to say it, but I feel like those groups are more or less like people just showing what they purchase, which, you know, I like seeing it. I'm not complaining about that. Or they're complaining about not having sales or something like that. It's either like positive or negative type of thing, but I feel like there's not a whole lot of helpfulness at times, which is a little disheartening because, like, you know, when you're actually having a technical issue, you know, it's nice to be able to like find out if someone else is having the same type of issue. I mean, I'm not saying they're gonna like fix my problem or anything, but at least like for me to know that it's not just me, like it's not just on my end type of thing. So like I can figure out if like I need to do something different, or if, you know, if eBay is legitimately having a problem type of thing. So like my problem was when I was listing, and this was when I was listing on the app, I typically list all of my eBay listings using my phone. I usually don't use the desktop very often when it comes to listing, unless I'm putting up a corresponding video to go in the auction listing. So anyway, when I was trying to post using the app, when I would get to shipping, the calculated shipping on first class mail only, calculated first class only, wasn't allowing me to use first class calculated. the only options that it was giving me was free shipping or to put in like a flat rate price to charge for shipping. So I didn't know, you know, if this was something just like going on my end or if it was some sort of like eBay glitch. So I made a post about it on, you know, one of those eBay Facebook groups, and I got like one response that just said no, and I don't know if they meant like no, they're not having problems, or no, they're not having problems because they don't use calculated shipping, like, or maybe they just use priority, flat rate, like that type of thing. So like I couldn't get a definitive answer. Like no one really commented saying anything on the post. So the next day it, you know, pretty much worked itself out, like whatever was wrong. So, but it was just kind of aggravating at the time, like what is going on? Because, you know, I could come upstairs and list on the computer as well. So it was just the phone, just the app, just first class, just calculated that I was having issues with. So if anyone else like knows what I'm talking about, like if you were having issues, let me know. Like I was joking to Eric, and this was just a joke, but like I was saying about how like no one's responding to this because nobody's listening. I feel like I'm the only one listening because I'm the only one having problems, because everyone else is just like on their highs of their purchases, or they're complaining that they're not getting sales and they should be listing instead of complaining about not getting sales. So we had a giggle about that. But yeah, I'm not one to talk because I haven't listed anything yet today, but I still have the rest of the day ahead of me. But you know, as far as eBay is going though, I feel like sales are doing pretty good. Especially like heading up into Christmas, I've been having a lot of good, decent sales, so that's always nice. That's always what I want. So, you know, just hoping into the next year I can just keep raising my numbers and that type of thing. But as of right now, I'd say knock on wood, smooth sailing. So hopefully it's smooth sailing for everyone else right now as well. Have to let me know down in the comments how things are going for you. I hope you guys enjoyed this cha-ching. I apologize, it's been a while since I posted a video. You know how it is. I've just been trying to take a little bit of break from YouTube, but you know, I'm not gonna stop making videos by any means. I just, you know, wanted a little bit of a break. So I'm gonna try to get back into it. But yeah, hope you enjoyed this one, and I will see you next time.